So the question on everybody's mind right now is, when does MLB 22 release? Or better yet, when will we hear more information on the topic of the release? After the announcement last week regarding MLB 21's 11th inning program with recycled bosses from previous programs, it's evident that no new content is going to be released there. The next logical step is for San Diego Studios to announce the cover athlete, which usually leads to a diamond card in the old game for any pre-orders of the new game. That pre-order card is usually the last card made in the old game. We're already well into January, and many past releases had the cover athlete revealed in early to mid-December, with the game releasing in March. But last year was something special with the pandemic and the transition to next gen. It's a trend that I believe will continue. With past MLB the Show releases on a new console, the old version drops first, with the new gen console dropping a few months later. San Diego Studios doesn't have that luxury anymore, since new gen consoles now have backwards compatibility. We saw this with the single release date of old and new gen consoles with MLB 21, with the early release on April 16th last year, and the 20th for the main release. Since you can play PS4 games on the PS5, it doesn't really make sense to delay the PS5 release. As such, it makes sense to have a delayed release date compared to the past to bridge the gap better. But as we saw with the release on Xbox last year, it likely also gave the developers more time to port the game to a new console. PlayStation and Xbox are more similar in terms of game hardware, and it makes sense that the Switch may be delayed a year or two further. But we have seen some indications that a Switch release could be in the works too. Back in December of 2019, the MLB PR Twitter account tweeted that Sony and San Diego Studios would be bringing the game to additional console platforms as early as 2021. Nintendo and Xbox both retweeted the MLB PR account, and of course the Xbox version was indeed released in 2021. One of the main graphical changes in the game was the main menu, which looked a lot more streamlined and perhaps uninspired compared to some of its predecessors. Upon glancing at the menu with Fernando Tatis this year, pretty much every menu option is a bulky, rectangular shape. They're all a uniform size, even if the text isn't as long as one box to the next. Compare that to MLB 20, where different mode options are different sizes. This could be indicative of an early transition to the Switch system that will be built upon, as the Switch will have touchscreen elements if you're on the go. It would be much easier to click a button with such a large size, but smaller text, so that if you clicked a smidgen away from where the text is displayed, you can't hit the wrong button by accident. The other big question relating to the release date of MLB the Show 22 is the MLB lockout, which may affect player likenesses. On the current MLB site, player images have been removed and replaced with grayscale humanoids. Would San Diego Studios still be able to release a game with real MLB players? After all, the NCAA games don't have real players, some historical teams on some games don't have the correct players either. Those players are just named with their position or their number. Or, famously, MLB The Show has had to replace players with fake players, like Reggie Stalker for Barry Bonds. It's a bit of a slippery slope, because each year players retire or new ones come into the league from the minors. Likenesses usually have to be with current players that have accrued Major League service time. For retired players, special considerations and deals have to be made to get legends in the game. However, if we look back to the MLB PR tweet, we can see that the developers and the Players Association made a multi-year deal back in December of 2019. While no end date was given, this multi-year deal is certainly still in effect until all of the consoles mentioned have a release. Similar lockouts have taken place in basketball and hockey. The 2011 NBA lockout delayed the start of the season by a month from November to December, yet NBA 2K12 still released on October 4th. The entire 2004 to 2005 NHL season was locked out, yet EA Sports didn't skip a beat with the 2005 game coming out, and the NHL's likenesses were available there. Will there still be some complications with the lockout? Potentially, but I don't see it being too much of an issue. There's a slight chance the lockout may affect the cover athlete and the MVP edition of the game, however. Last year, Fernando Tatis was named cover athlete, and while he was a great selection for a cover athlete regardless, there's a likelihood that he was chosen because of his proximity to San Diego Studios, having played for the Padres. Having such a high caliber player nearby during the pandemic made the selection an easy choice. Meanwhile, the MVP edition was something unexpected. Instead of having one cover athlete across the board, we saw Jackie Robinson on the deluxe games with a plain new era cap included in the MVP package. It's entirely possible that Tatis was supposed to have a themed hat like the other previous athletes, but the shipments or designs for his hat could have been delayed or outright canceled by the pandemic, leaving a more generic hat as the option. I give kudos to San Diego Studios for featuring the Jackie Robinson Foundation with $1 donated for each copy sold, but the hat also didn't really thematically match anything Jackie Robinson related. It's my hunch that some changes had to be made due to the pandemic. It's almost certain that with his historic year, Shohei Ohtani is the shoe-in candidate for a cover athlete, but the licensing for the hat and other items could be separate from the Players Association agreement for the likenesses in the game. This could lead to something else besides a hat in the MVP edition, another design interdependent of the cover athlete, or a similar situation to last year where the deluxe cover athlete themselves is a retired player. We could also see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to some capacity as a cover athlete, since the game sometimes has regional cover athletes for Canada, but honestly, we could be thrown a curveball for who might be on one of the covers. That might also be one of the other reasons as to why the cover athlete or new game hasn't been teased. While I imagine San Diego Studios would like a marketable, currently living athlete to get more reach, there's a chance that they're still deciding to some degree. In any case, if the development schedule is going to continue on a similar pace to last year, the Tatis cover was leaked on January 30th, 2021. A day later, the Jackie Robinson cover was found, and then on February 1st, Tatis was interviewed on Hot Ones with Sean Evans. In other words, mark your calendars for more news at the end of this month. There's a good chance the leakers might find some information around that time, or San Diego Studios might make an announcement of their own early in February. MLB 21 had an early release on Friday the 16th last year, and the main game released on Tuesday the 20th. The main difference this year is that if the game were to release the same time in April, the Easter holiday would fall within the early and main launch of the game. The developers usually take early access as a big opportunity to make hot fixes and inspect servers, so my personal take is that they may avoid Easter weekend and push it back an additional week. My final guess is that MLB the Show 22 will release on PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch with an early access date of April 22nd and a main launch day of April 26th. If you guys have any other inklings for what might determine the release dates or any other leaks that might occur from now until February, let me know in the comments, see if we missed anything. Otherwise, that's going to do it for now. My name is Kasabi from Showzone, and we will see you in the next video.